My name is Riley. I'm 28 years old, and I live and work in Austin, Texas. I never thought I'd wake up in a stark, white hospital room, my legs braced in metal, with the beeping heart monitor being the only sound breaking the brutal silence. But what hurt more than broken bones, more than the incision across my abdomen, was my mother's breezy voice in the voicemail. "Hi, sweetheart, it's Mom. Your dad and I are already at the airport. We're about to board our flight to Florence with Connor. The doctor said you'd be in the hospital for a while, so we figured there's not much else we can do. Don't call us while we're in Europe. The roaming fees are too expensive. Get well soon. Oh, and thanks for the credit card. I used it to book the tickets. Ciao." I tossed my phone onto the hospital sheets. My hands were trembling, not from fever or pain, but because my heart had just been crushed. Just 2 days earlier, I was hit by a pickup truck that ran a red light while I was driving home from a late shift. I don't remember the impact, don't remember the blood or the sirens, just the operating room lights and the icy cold of the oxygen mask being placed over my face. I was unconscious for nearly 3 days. When I woke up, my whole body felt shattered. My legs were stabilized by titanium rods that stretched like railroad tracks. My lungs burned from fluid buildup. The doctors said I'd need at least 4 months to walk again, not to mention dozens of physical therapy sessions. I asked the nurse, "Where are my parents?" She hesitated. "They came by while you were still unconscious." "They didn't leave a message. We tried to call, but we haven't been able to reach them." I tried calling. 3 calls. Each went straight to voicemail. It wasn't until the next morning that I saw the voicemail from my mom. A short, weightless message that cut through me like a razor blade. Connor, my younger brother, had always been treated like something fragile and precious. He dropped out of college, struggled academically, and at 25, still lived in my parents' basement, gaming and starting a business with the money I sent home every month. And me, a software engineer, financially independent since 21, still sending money back to help pay off their debts, their car, even my dad's golf club membership. Now they were in Florence, posing in front of the Duomo, eating pasta with $100 glasses of red wine, using the credit card I opened to book their business class tickets. Meanwhile, I was lying here alone without a single genuine check-in. The laughter in that voicemail twisted my stomach. My mother laughed, Connor laughed, and I swallowed my tears so the nurses wouldn't see how broken I really was. When Dr. Clara came in to check my vitals, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I broke down sobbing, my whole body shaking, and whispered like I was confessing a crime. They went to Italy, left me here. Clara set down the chart and sat beside my bed, her eyes darkening with disbelief. "I've been a doctor for nearly 18 years, she said quietly. I've seen all kinds of families. Some camp out in hospital hallways for weeks. Some visit once and vanish, but leaving for Europe right after their daughter nearly dies? I've never seen that." I let out a dry, bitter laugh. And they said I'd be fine, because there are nurses here, because there's nothing else they can do. The air grew thick. I no longer felt the pain in my legs, only the weight pressing on my chest like something collapsing from the inside out. Outside the door, I heard a nurse's voice. "She's awake. I brought her breakfast." I turned my head away and wiped my face. I didn't want anyone to see me like that. But deep inside, I knew something with crystal clarity. I had been betrayed. Not by a sudden accident, but by the people I once called family. From the outside, my family always appeared polished and admirable. My father, James Whitaker, was the principal of a public high school in San Antonio. My mother, Lorraine, ran a small flower shop well known for her elaborate and artistic wedding bouquets. They showed up at every community event, always holding hands, smiling with neighbors, and never missed a Sunday church service. And me? I was the reliable daughter, the one who learned to cook dinner when mom was busy with orders, did her homework while dad lectured other teachers during dinner, and stayed silent whenever Connor was blatantly favored. I've never forgotten my 16th birthday. Mom promised to close the shop early and take me to my favorite restaurant for the first time in months. I sat in my new dress, waiting on the sofa for over 2 hours, until I got a blunt text. Sorry, sweetheart, Connor just got called into a last-minute scrimmage. I can't miss it. I ate instant noodles, alone. The small birthday cake I had ordered from a local bakery still sat on the table because I knew if I didn't take care of it, no one would. Connor is 3 years older than me. Tall, handsome, good at basketball, and terrible at everything else. He struggled in school, went through girlfriends constantly, dropped out of college during his first year because the environment wasn't right, and was always called a soul still finding his way by my parents. Meanwhile, I got into Georgia Tech on a full STEM scholarship. Mom once said, "Of course you did well, but your brother is the one I really worry about." Dad used to tell neighbors, my daughter got hired by a major tech company in Austin. But he missed my graduation party. The reason? Connor lost his car keys and Dad had to drive 3 hours to Houston to pick him up. I learned not to expect anything. No one showed up at my academic awards ceremonies. No one picked me up after my wisdom tooth surgery. I got used to standing behind the camera, taking photos of Connor's medal ceremonies, then scrolling through them alone under the glow of my phone screen. After starting a job at a fintech company, I moved to Austin and handled everything myself, from rent to health insurance. Every month, I still sent at least $2,000 home, covering my parents' car payments, helping with household expenses, sometimes for house repairs, Dad's joint supplements, and startup money for Connor. The first time I sent money, Mom called crying. "No one's ever helped me like you. I'm so grateful." I believed her. But the following calls turned into requests. "The flower shop's slow this month. Connor needs a new camera for live streaming. Your dad missed his golf tournament." I kept sending. I tracked each payment in a color-coded Excel sheet. House, car, little brother, emergencies, and temporary, a column that never disappeared. On a rare visit home, I noticed a brand new TV in the living room with surround sound wired into the walls. Connor grinned. "See this? It's our home theater setup. Your money really made it happen." I gave a crooked smile, gripping the arm of the couch. At that time, I was using a second-hand laptop I bought off Craigslist. I remember clearly the night before the accident, I called for the first time in my life and said, "I need to cut back. I'm saving up to buy a house. I can't keep sending money forever." Mom went silent for 3 seconds, then started crying. Dad jumped in, voice sharp. "What kind of person are you? We raised you for over 20 years, and now that we're older, you turn your back?" Connor didn't say anything, just sent a shaking head emoji. I hung up. Empty, but oddly relieved. Relieved because I thought I had finally drawn my first boundary. And then, just 2 weeks later, I lay motionless in a hospital bed, while they were raising wine glasses in front of the Florence Cathedral. I scrolled past the photo Mom had posted before their flight. 3 plane tickets, booked a month earlier. They'd been planning this all along. And I was always the one left last. Nurse Riley knocked gently, carrying a tray of soup and juice. She looked at me and said slowly, "You don't get to choose where you're born, but you can choose where you belong." I didn't respond. I just stared out the window. Rain had started to fall, and for the first time I knew I could never go back to the place I once called home. Not anymore. Not after everything. I started sending money home when I was just 24, a year after being promoted to lead engineer at Skylink Pay, a fast-growing fintech startup in Austin. A 6-figure starting salary might sound like a lot, but to me it felt more like a chance to repay my parents for raising me than an opportunity to enjoy life. At first, everything had a clear reason. The first month was to help my parents pay off an unsecured loan of nearly $12,000 they had taken out to repair the roof after a storm. My mom cried over the phone. "If it weren't for you, I'd probably have to sell the flower shop." The next month, I covered 2 months of health insurance since Dad had just taken early retirement and lost his school-issued coverage. But after that, those temporary expenses started becoming the norm. I don't remember exactly when the monthly transfers became expected. It might have been after Mom called to say the air conditioner broke down, or when Connor wanted to start a handmade product business on TikTok and needed money for a camera. It opened a separate account and set up an automatic transfer. $3,000 for my parents, $1,500 for Connor, plus another $200 for unexpected costs. When there weren't any, they still spent it all. One month, I received a credit card bill with a charge from a car dealership in Dallas. They had placed a down payment on a brand new pearl white SUV that Mom called a reward for years of hard work. I don't recall ever agreeing to that reward, but Mom said, "You don't need a new car. You live in the city. We need a safe vehicle to visit your grandma." I didn't know how to respond, other than paying off the remaining $12,000 to avoid losing the deposit. Connor was still bouncing between business ideas that I'd never seen produce a single dollar of profit. When I asked about the $2,000 investment I sent last month, he shrugged. "Are you investing or auditing me? It's a startup. Maybe we lose money for a few years first." Once, I called Mom to ask why this month's expenses jumped by nearly $2,000. She said, "Your dad accidentally signed up for a premium golf membership. They won't let him cancel, but he deserves it, sweetie. Life's short. He has so few joys." That line, "your dad deserves it," repeated itself every time I questioned an expense. When they installed a backyard pool, when they upgraded the sound system in the living room, when Connor upgraded his gaming PC, calling it a work tool. I kept a spreadsheet of every cost. $1,500 monthly for the house bills, $1,000 for the car, $2,500 for general living expenses, $500 for Connor's marketing course, and countless other odd charges. Roof repairs, new sofas, even dog food for the newly adopted purebred Pomeranian named Biscuit. Monthly totals often exceeded $8,000. One month, I sent as much as $9,400. When I asked if we could pause a few items so I could start saving to buy my own home, Mom sighed. "You know your dad has high blood pressure," saying that might upset him. And Dad just texted, "If you don't want to help anymore, just say it. No need for excuses." I was still living in a rented apartment, barely 700 square feet. My fridge was nearly always empty because I was too exhausted to cook. I declined every coworker gathering, afraid that using my personal card might throw off the family budget. I told Skylar, my college best friend, during one of her visits. She looked at the expense breakdown on my laptop and asked me bluntly, "So, if you got seriously sick, what do you think they'd do?" I let out a bitter laugh. "They'd worry. I mean, I'm still their daughter, right?" She didn't say anything. She just gently closed the laptop and looked at me with quiet, heavy eyes. I sat in the car, hands still gripping the steering wheel even though the engine had been off for nearly 10 minutes. Inside the house ahead, the kitchen light spilled through the foggy window, casting the shadow of my mom flipping meat on a skillet. Connor sat in front of the TV, game controller in hand, feet propped on the table like he didn't have a single care in the world. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady as I walked into the house. "I need to talk." My dad, James, looked up from his newspaper, voice heavy. "What is it, another emergency expense?" "No, the opposite. I want to reduce the monthly support." No one said a word, just the crackling sound of oil in the skillet. I went on, "I can't keep sending $8,000 every month. I need to save for a home, for my own future. I'll still help, but more reasonably. In 3 months, I'll cut it in half. Then after that, it'll depend on actual needs." My mom put down the skillet and turned around. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then the tears came, like they had been waiting. "You don't love us anymore, Riley." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'd expected this reaction, but it still hit hard. "It's not that I don't love you, but—" "Then why," my mom cut in, "when you were little, I skipped lunch just to buy you a new gym outfit. Your dad drove 3 hours every week just to bring you home for the holidays. Now that you've made it, you want to liquidate your duty as a daughter?" "Lorraine, let her speak," my dad said through clenched teeth, though he didn't look at me. He was gripping his coffee mug tightly. Connor stood up from the couch, headphones still on. His voice came from across the room. You're the type who kicks down the ladder once you've climbed up. Connor, I turned to him. You don't do anything. You don't work, don't study, don't pay a single bill. I can't keep supporting you like a child. I'm your brother, Connor shouted. You once said family comes first. What now? Your money matters more than us? Dad stood up, voice low but firm. You live alone in the big city, high salary, no family, no kids. Why suffer over sending a little money back? Or are you planning to move to some luxury neighborhood and cut ties with us altogether? That's not it, I heard myself almost pleading. I just want some financial safety. Every month, I only keep enough for rent and food. Everything else goes into this house. I'm exhausted. My mom collapsed into a chair, face in her hands. Her voice came out choked. You're this family's only hope, Riley. If you abandon us now, how is that different from pushing me into a pit? Dad just shook his head, voice bitter. Fine, no pressure. Cut it all off starting next month. Keep your money and build that dream castle of yours. Doesn't matter how your mom survives. Connor slammed his door, yelling, When you need us, don't call. I stood frozen in the living room. No one looked at me. No one asked why I couldn't sleep, why I worked late, or why I skipped vacations out of fear I wouldn't have enough to send. No one asked if I was lonely. Just accusations, like I was the traitor for wanting to keep a small piece of my own effort. I turned and left. No dinner, no more words. As I closed the car door, I saw my mom through the kitchen window. She was wiping her face, then quietly picked up her phone. I couldn't tell if she was texting someone or opening the banking app to check my account one last time. I started the engine. My chest felt lighter, but not at peace. I didn't cry, but inside the emptiness spread, like a patch of forest after wildfire. The trees weren't completely dead, but there were no more leaves. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. I'm sorry if I hurt you, but if you think money can buy peace, then you don't understand family at all. I placed the phone on the passenger seat. Didn't open it again. Didn't reply. That was the first night I didn't log into the bank app to check the family account balance. It was also the first night I began to think about two words: cutting ties. On Wednesday afternoon, 5 days after the accident, I was finally allowed to sit up with the help of an adjustable wedge pillow. The lower half of my body was still numb from medication, but my mind was clearer. Clear enough to realize I was lying here alone, while my parents and brother were likely settled somewhere in Europe. I unlocked my phone for the first time since regaining consciousness. In the saved voicemails folder, I found a cheerful message from my mom. We're at the airport now, about to fly to Florence with Connor. Don't call. Roaming charges are expensive. I know you'll be fine. The doctor said you'd be in the hospital for a while, so we figured we might as well take advantage of summer break. Oh, your visa still works. Use it to book the tickets. Thanks, sweetheart. Ciao. I had never felt so humiliated in my life. They hadn't just abandoned me. They used my money to do it. I opened my banking app for the first time in months. My hand trembled slightly as I typed in the password. Every transaction made while I was unconscious appeared clearly, like being slapped in the face with receipts. June 11th, just 2 days after the accident. There was a charge for $15,292 at Bella Via Travel Services. The note read, "Full payment for 3-person Italy tour, business class upgrade." I went still. While I was receiving an emergency blood transfusion, they were finalizing luxury flight upgrades for their dream vacation. And it didn't stop there. 3 more charges followed. $750 at Sandro Milano, a high-end fashion brand. $920 at Florence Vespa Rentals. $1,180 at Ristorante Aurelio rooftop booking. No check-in calls, no asking for permission. I opened Facebook and typed in Florence and Mom. Within seconds, I found a post she had shared with friends-only privacy. 3 of them, smiling brightly in front of the Duomo, holding gelato cones. The caption read, "A well-deserved vacation after years of sacrifice. Grazie, Florence." Beneath it was a comment from Connor. Thanks to the Bank of Riley for funding our soul-healing journey. Followed by a laughing emoji and a heart. I bit my lip so hard it bled. I kept scrolling. A post from 3 weeks ago in the family group chat, Whitaker home update, read, Florence, here we come. As long as Riley doesn't cut off this month's allowance, we're covered. A farewell summer gift. They'd planned this, and when I said I wanted to reduce my financial support, they weren't hurt. They were afraid it would ruin their Italy trip. Miss Riley entered the room, carrying a food tray. She paused when she saw my pale face. Riley, what's going on? I didn't answer. I just held up my phone to show her the photo of my mom trying on Gucci sunglasses, captioned, Italian summer shades worth every penny of my daughter's. Riley exhaled and set the tray down. She sat on the edge of my bed. They used your money? I nodded, then whispered, barely loud enough for even me to hear. I'm lying here with broken bones, internal bleeding, and doctors unsure if I'll walk again. And they're out there enjoying pasta while I can't even get to the bathroom on my own. My voice cracked. My throat tightened. Riley gently took my hand and squeezed. She didn't say a word. I closed my eyes, trying to hold back the tears, but they came anyway. Not from pain, but from the collapse of everything I had built. My image of a decent family, one that loved each other even through disagreements, shattered in under 10 minutes of scrolling through transactions. No one had forced me to sacrifice this much. I chose to. I believed if I gave enough, they would love me the way they loved Connor. And now, in the sterile hospital room, I finally saw the brutal truth. I was never a priority. I was just the most reliable financial resource they ever had. I thought I would spend the next few weeks in silence and solitude, like a shadow the world had forgotten. But strangely, the emptiness my family left behind wasn't a dead space. It became a place for others to step into. Riley, my morning nurse, was the first. Unlike the others who passed by with a routine everything okay, she stayed. She didn't ask out of politeness. She asked because she genuinely wanted to know. She shared that she'd served as a military nurse in Afghanistan and had seen terrible things. Enough to recognize pain that hides behind silence. Emotional wounds linger longer than physical ones, she said once while changing my bandages. And you, Riley, are hurting in both places. Riley started bringing me little things, a cup of homemade chamomile tea, an unscented lip balm because she knew I hated chemical smells. One day, she brought a worn-out book, To Kill a Mockingbird, from her father's shelf, saying it helped her through post-war depression. I read every word as if it had been written for me. But it wasn't just Riley. My primary physician, Martinez, a Mexican-American woman in her 40s with a voice warm as hot cocoa, began stopping by even outside her rotation. One day, she brought a small box of corn cakes her mother had baked and smiled. For my most special patient. I also had a roommate, Miss Eleanor, 65, recovering from a bathroom fall and a fractured hip. At first, I thought she was aloof, always wearing sunglasses and listening to opera, but on the third night, when I broke down crying, she pulled off her headphones and simply asked, "Need someone to sit with you?" From then on, each afternoon while I struggled to lift my legs off the bed and practice walking, Miss Eleanor sat by the chair, holding a tiny stopwatch, counting how many seconds I could hold my stance. Every step is a victory, she often said. No one, not even family, gets to take that from you. Even Leroy, the janitor, over 60 with silver hair close to his scalp, knocked on my door every morning with a toothless grin I'd come to look forward to. "Did Riley win today?" he'd ask. He had a habit of sneaking a mint onto my medication tray like he was gifting the queen. They didn't have to be kind to me. None of them owed me a thing. But they came, one by one, as if the universe was trying to fill the void my family left behind. A week later, Riley brought in a small card and placed it on my table. Family isn't blood. Family is who stays when you fall apart. Beneath it were handwritten names: Riley, Eleanor, Dr. Martinez, Leroy. I touched the card, my heartbeat finally slowing. That night, I opened my phone again. No new messages from Mom, no missed calls from Dad or Connor, but I no longer expected any. Instead, I texted Riley. Will there be chamomile tomorrow? I think I'm addicted. A minute later, she replied. Bringing ginger cookies too. You might fall apart, but your taste buds never do. I laughed. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't bitter. It was real. I looked up at the hospital ceiling. It didn't feel cold anymore. Because finally I understood. I wasn't alone. And sometimes family is rebuilt from broken pieces, with the quiet kindness of strangers. 4 a.m. I woke up from a sharp pain in my left hip, but this time I didn't press the morphine button. Instead, I turned on the nightlight and opened my laptop. Tonight, I didn't want to go numb. I wanted to feel everything, both the pain and the growing determination in my chest. It was time to reclaim what was mine. I started by calling Ava, an independent financial advisor Riley had recommended. She used to be an auditor at a national bank with a voice that was sharp but strangely empathetic. Really, the first thing we need to do is take back full control of your financial system. Who currently has access? My mom. And Connor. Do they have legal power of attorney? No, I only gave them my passwords because it was easier to track the bills. Good. That means they don't have legal authority, which means we can act immediately. Within 3 hours, Ava helped me shut down all my old bank accounts and opened 3 new ones at a different bank, with higher security, 2-factor authentication using a separate device. I changed every password, from banking to digital payment systems and all linked crypto wallets. Next came the credit cards. I called the hotline, listed every transaction from the past 45 days, and requested a card freeze, opening a fraud investigation into the card used to pay for the Florence trip. Will they be investigated? I asked, my voice no longer steady. They'll be required to explain, the call agent replied coolly. And with the evidence you've provided, the bank may escalate this to civil authorities if needed. I paused, took a deep breath, then continued calling the power company, the internet provider, the auto insurance, the health insurance, every service, registered in my name but serving the house in San Antonio, and canceled each one. I called the car dealership I was financing 2 vehicles through, an SUV for Dad, a sporty sedan for Connor. I didn't want to keep anything. Can you arrange a repossession? I asked. As long as the contract is in your name. It is. I'm the sole signer, and I want to sever every tie to them. Each call was a cut. Each service cancellation confirmed pulled me further from the shadow I'd lived in for the past 6 years. By noon, Riley stepped into my room with 2 cups of peppermint tea and a surprised look when she saw me still sitting upright at my laptop. Planning a coup? No, I smiled faintly. I'm reclaiming my territory. I wasn't done. I called the airline using the booking confirmation from an old email account my mother had mistakenly accessed. 3 round-trip tickets from Florence to Dallas, business class. I canceled them, got the refund sent to my new account, and added a note to the booking file. Transaction made without account holder's consent. You're leaving them stranded, the customer service rep asked softly. No, I'm letting them pay for themselves, for the first time in their lives. That afternoon, Riley called her brother Derek, who had an old but sturdy pickup truck. The 3 of us planned a little visit to the old house. The hospital agreed to discharge me for the day as long as I had transport and mobility support. I sat in a wheelchair, holding a list of personal items still locked away in my parents' house. My college savings book, my grandmother's necklace, my birth certificate, old family photos, and even the first sketch I ever drew at 10. Something my mother once called useless but worth keeping. The San Antonio house wasn't locked. Security cameras were off. I used my old key and stepped in like a guest, retrieving stolen fragments of my life. We took nothing but what was legally mine. Riley had printed the list, and I checked off each item like I was scanning groceries. Derek gasped when he saw the gaming PC Connor had set up in the living room, still in its original packaging, marked Riley's card, thanks Sid. I didn't smash anything, didn't write on the walls, didn't leave behind rage. I just stuck a post-it note on the fridge. I'm no longer your sponsor. Please find another way to live. We left just as the sky turned dark. We took no vengeance, only clarity. At 2 a.m., I knew they were back when the phone rang. The screen said, Mom, cell, a number I hadn't blocked, just monitored. I didn't pick up. 10 minutes later, the messages flooded in from Mom, Dad, Connor. First came the anger. You think this is funny? We're stranded at the airport with declined cards. How dare you? And the threats. You cut us off financially. You cut us off for good. I'll never forgive you. We'll sue you. And finally, the emotional manipulation I knew too well. Mom's blood pressure spiked. She cried in Florence, because of you. Connor has nowhere to stay if you took the car. Moved them all to a separate folder. I didn't reply. 3 days later, the hospital informed me that 3 people were at the front desk asking to see Riley Whitaker. No appointment. No flowers either. I looked at Riley, reading beside my bed. She closed her book and asked gently, Want me to stay? I nodded. You're the only family I have left. My parents entered the room, faces flushed with fury. Connor followed, still sunburned, clearly straight from the beach. They froze, seeing Riley sitting there calm, like she belonged. Mom spoke first. Do you even realize what you've done? Abandoning your family mid-trip? Humiliating us in front of friends? Stealing family money. I looked straight at her, no trembling this time. No, I just took back what was mine. Dad slammed his hand against the window. You're acting like a stranger, no warning, no notice. How is this not just throwing us out on the street? It's different, I said. You still have a home, just not one I'm paying for anymore. Connor jumped in, snapping, You ruined everything. If you didn't want me, fine, but you took the car. You want me to walk? You're 25, Connor. You can work. You can buy your own car. I don't owe you a sandwich, let alone a sedan. Mom began to cry. Not shock tears, but what I used to call her emotional weaponry. Don't agree with you. I don't understand. I love you, Riley. Families where we lean on each other. How can you push me to the edge like this? I leaned over and picked up the envelope I'd already prepared. These are the terms if you still want to be in my life. Dad opened it, flipping through the pages. 3 items. No financial support in any form. Contact only with prior consent. If boundaries are violated, contact ends completely. Is this a contract? Dad sneered. The boundary, I replied. Mom crumpled the envelope. I won't sign. I won't accept this. You're no daughter of mine. Connor threw the car key card onto the table. Go live with your nurse. They left. Slammed the door so hard the vase shook. I sighed. Not from pain, just relief. Riley sat beside me again, saying nothing, just holding my hand tightly. You okay? She asked. I nodded. They don't control anything anymore. For the first time in my life, I get to choose. 3 weeks later, I was discharged. Riley picked me up in her brother's borrowed SUV, the trunk packed with soft bedding, a lumbar pillow, and a small sign, Riley's New Journey. I moved into Eleanor's apartment, the elderly woman I'd shared a hospital room with, who insisted on charging a symbolic rent. Every morning, Riley drove me to physical therapy. Every night, I read by the window, slowly learning to stop checking anyone's bank account but my own. One evening, Riley asked, If you could go back, would you change anything? I shook my head. No. Because if none of it happened, I wouldn't know what home really means. She smiled. Then welcome home. Riley's story is a powerful reminder that love does not mean unconditional sacrifice. In real life, some families build relationships on dependency and manipulation, turning the kindest person into a silent victim. But when we dare to set boundaries, when we reclaim ownership of our own lives, it's not betrayal. It's a courageous step toward healing. Because sometimes true family is found in the kindness of someone we least expect. What do you think of Riley's choice? If you were in her shoes, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about family and life.